that we have, particularly being virtual, which is not quite the same as actually being in person and actually, being able to breathe into one another literally and personally. I thought, given everything that I've kind of coached Larry through this year, that it would be valuable, particularly given some of the new faces that are present in the team, to just go back to some basics, to really get back to some of the foundation around what Synergy Coach is trying to create. Because moving forward, it's a whole new set of personalities, a whole new set of dynamics, and a whole new team in many ways. Sonia is the only face that I've seen consistently over the years and has stayed the course through all of the ups and downs and been a consistent member of the team that Larry has pulled together as he's envisioned transforming that structure of what a gym or a fitness facility can look like into something that can really be a social change vehicle for the community. And that's a totally different mindset that he's bringing to this business that you guys are all connected to in one way or another. And because there's also that component of developing individual businesses, individual brands, every trainer having their own sense of how they want to share their expertise in the world, it's an interesting dynamic of what the team actually looks like. So I just went back to some real grassroots aspects of what team is. And today, what I'd like to do is to really challenge everybody here to open their eyes to what teamwork really is. And last year, you guys did an exercise where you came up with the acronym of REAL in terms of how you want to move forward as a team. A lot of those who were involved in creating that REAL acronym are no longer here. So it's not as relevant. New folks like E and Asia and Liz, who I don't know that well either. Hi, Liz, thanks for joining us. Don't really understand what it means to have a real team in place. And so that's where that chaos starts to happen, where people don't understand what's expected. They know what they can bring to the table, but they don't necessarily know whether or not it's appreciated, whether or not it's needed, whether or not it's valuable. And they also don't necessarily understand how to interact with the other members of the team. So I'd like everybody to get a piece of paper, have something you can write on, a tablet or iPad, whatever you take notes on, because I'm going to ask you a series of questions that I want you to answer. And after you answer them, I'd like you to take some time the rest of today to share your answers with one another so that you can kind of see where one another is at with engaging with this team, and also see where some of the gaps might be so that you can bring in tools to fill them. And this is the same work I did yesterday with the guys who were there in Hilton Head. But when I looked up team, just the definition of a team, it was interesting to see words that you guys throw around all the time. Words like posse and squad and gang and crew. And at its core, a team is a partnership. It's an alliance where individuals, one-off individuals, come together to form a new entity, a new identity, and to join forces and collaborate. And unfortunately, when you start to have a business structure, the collaboration piece often falls lower down the scale, and it becomes more about simply fulfilling your role, your individual role and your duty, as opposed to collaborating with exchange with the other team members, with dialogue, with open critique, and with a trust that your input's going to be respected and taken in. Whether or not it's actually implemented is a whole nother thing, but at least having that aspect of trust and respect is essential to having that aspect of collaboration get created. So one of the ways of forming trust, more trust of one another, is to get to know one another. You have to know who it is you're working with in order to be able to work with them effectively. So one of the questions that I had for the guys yesterday was just to get a sense of what other teams we have each been on in the past. What kinds of teams have you been a part of? And what were your personal goals with being on that particular team? So I'd like everybody to go around and just share a little bit of what other kinds of teams they may have been on, and then I'll tell you what kind of teams I've been on. And we can get a sense of, yeah, this person has actually had to put their own personal ego aside for a moment in order to elevate the team to its ultimate goal. So who would like to go first? Sonia, you look like you're just dying to tell us what other teams you've been on. I'm going to pick on you because I know you. So there you go. Okay, we can't hear you. Nope, can't hear you at all. Nope, not yet, not yet.
I can go while she's figuring out her audio.
Okay, Liz, thanks.
I have been on a sports team, I rode on the crew team in college.
All right.
So I could, from that side of things, like that type of more what we think of as the typical team, right? Like that kind of sports team. I am on I'm a faculty member within UK. So I see the faculty as a whole as a team.
Okay.
And more recently on a team that I had to form myself is through all of my campaigning and election stuff. So I had to form my campaign team and really be in charge of the people who were selected and what their roles were going to be and manage the team more than other teams I've been a part of. And sorry, my dog is a part of my team this morning. So she's chewing on a bone right here. If you can hear her, sorry.
Oh, I've got one at my feet right now. He's huddling because there's hunters out. I live right next to BLM in public land. And so this is hunting season and he just can't stand the high powered rifles that go off at 6 a.m. So he's right here being really good. So I get it.
So those are some of the teams I've been a part of.
Awesome. Thank you. Asia?
Yeah, I'll go. Like Liz said, I have been a part of basketball teams since I was 3, starting at the YMCA. And even with running track, I know it's more so an individual sport, it's still a team. When I worked at a country club and we used to set up for weddings, that's a team because we have to all be on the same page. And I think my relationship is a team as well. We're 2 people who have to do things together to move forward and be great. So I think those are the important teams that I've been on or are on.
Awesome.
Besides this team.
And thanks for bringing up that personal relationship as definitely something that has team dynamics. There's give and take, and then there's the new unit when 2 come together. Thank you. Yes. Sonia, are you with us yet? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, so I guess my first team was I was me and my daughter. That's our first team. It started with a marriage, and the marriage ended, and we created Mecca, and Mecca and I do life together, and so we're a team, and she's about to add on to the team, and so I've been a part of a dental practice for 20 years. So I was a part of that team. I served as administration. I served as 4 or 5 different positions before I was able to move forward. Then I've always held administrative positions since 1997. So I've been in accounting firms, security system firms, as well as Berea College and now UK. So I've been a part of several teams.
Awesome.
Malama Massage, and I've been with Synergy Coach since 2013.
All right, nice. And E, is E still there? See her computer moving.
Yes.
Okay, share some
I
of the
know.
teams that you've been a part of and are now.
So I've been a part of, really the only time I've been a part of teams was in that was just like basketball and track. And I took the most serious, and that was kind of like you doing your own thing. So and besides being a part of this team, I've become a part of a Herbalife team, and that is that's the only time I've been part of a team.
Okay, awesome.
It's not much, so
Okay, well, and there were a couple of you who, as you were sharing what teams you were part of, you were minimizing the significance of them. So I just want to make you aware of how you speak about what you've done. Always honor what you've done as being important for who you are today, because it absolutely is. It contributes to your perspective. The kind of team that you may have been on also contributes to how you view connecting with other people to get something done. And so some of the teams that I've been on women's soccer teams all through my 20s and in high school, of course. Field hockey, I was in track and field at Georgetown, even though they did not have a women's athletic department at the time. So I had to shower in the guys' shower room while somebody was standing at the door, and I ran track with the guys. I was also on the squash team and tennis team. And one of the teams that I didn't mention yesterday, Larry, was my taiko drumming, Japanese drumming. I've been part of a taiko troupe that performs statewide for 12 years, and have worked with a number of network marketing leaders doing coaching, bringing coaching to individuals who are trying to build their teams to significant financial returns. And one of my very first coaching clients was a spiritual group out of Japan, an NGO that was expanding globally. And we ended up taking their work to Brazil, Italy, Germany, England, and of course in the US. So I've worked with a lot of different teams. And one of the things that I can say, there's often a difference, and we're starting to change this. Coaching is actually making a difference in how business teams are structured. But when you work with a team under the auspices of a business, it's almost always in service of someone else's goals. It's in service of the business owner's goals or the corporation's goals, not necessarily your own personal passions. And so that's something to be aware of as you join teams is this serving me to further my journey here on the planet? Because we have a very limited time here. And being in service to what your true talents are, which things like Strength Finders gives you an idea of what your talents are. It doesn't necessarily support you in developing those talents. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, because I've spent a lot of time as a coach over the last 20 years trying to find resources that will support people in living into their best and highest purpose, which of course is up to them to determine what that is. But when you're a part of a team and that purpose starts to get utilized for an outside goal, it's always valuable to make sure that's in alignment with what your personal passions are. And it's okay to say, yeah, no, I don't want to be a part of this team because it's just not serving me. Oh, and one other team I was on was crew. I rode crew in San Diego for a number of years. So when you said that, Liz, I was like, yay, somebody else who rode. Because one of the things that I mentioned yesterday is that's an example of how, as a team member in crew, you can't have people rowing at their own pace. You have to be in unison. You have to be going in the same direction, or you're not going to get anywhere. And it's a corny analogy that points out the value of committing to the team. And that's one thing I really want to acknowledge Sonia for, is her commitment to the Synergy Coach team has been really outstanding over the years, even as turmoil has erupted and changes have occurred and chaos has descended upon the group. That ability to stay committed, knowing that there's a bigger reason for putting your energy into something, is really commendable. A lot of people cut and run when things start to get challenging, and that's disruptive to a team. As you know, if you're playing any kind of sport and your team member doesn't show up, it affects everybody. So it's awesome to hear all the different team experiences that you guys have had. So what I wanted to do, I've got a series of questions I want you guys to write down either the question or your answer to, and you're going to rate these questions on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being probably not at all, and 5 being absolutely 100%. So one of the first questions I want to ask everybody to consider is, how clear are you right now about the Synergy Coach mission? Could you go into a networking group and really explain what Synergy Coach is about? 1 being, no, I'm not really sure what Larry's doing. I just go there to work out and it's great. And 5 being, absolutely, I've helped develop this mission statement. I understand it and I'm passionate about sharing it with others. So on a scale of 1 to 5, how clear are you about Synergy Coach's mission? And then the second part of that question is, how closely in alignment is that mission with your own personal mission statement? And if you've not taken the time to construct a personal mission statement for yourself, I definitely encourage you to reach back to me. I've got some great worksheets you can go through to help refine what it is you want to state to the world that you're about for this short time that you're here on the planet. Because having clarity about that absolutely helps you choose powerfully. So how closely in alignment is Synergy Coach's mission with your own personal mission statement? And that's the answer to that is something I'd love for each of you to share with Larry at some point, because that definitely helps him to ascertain what's the best role for this individual based on their level of commitment to Synergy Coach, and also based on Synergy Coach's commitment to support their brand development. So next question is, how valued, everybody here is part of this team, how valued do you feel as a team member? With 1 being, I don't feel like anybody sees me or pays any attention to what I need, and 5 being, I absolutely feel heard all the time and feel as if I can express changes and needs and ideas when needed. So after considering your feelings, how well do you know the other team members of Synergy Coach? And there's 3 categories of team members for Synergy Coach. 1 being the other trainers. How well do you know the trainers? How well do you know their goals, their passions, their life? Do you know everybody's middle name? Do you know when their birthday is? Do you know if they have children or not? The second group is the leadership team. How well do you know the members of the leadership team, and how clear are you on the roles that they play? And then the third group is the clients. How well do you know your clients? So that if people don't show up, you have a sense of what's going on in their lives. And when they do show up, you have a sense of what kind of mood they're in based on how you know what's going on in their lives. On a scale of 1 to 5, how well do you know the other team members of Synergy Coach? And there's no right or wrong in this. This is just kind of a baseline evaluation of where things are at. And you can't make progress or change until you know where you're starting from. So the other part of that question is, how well do you feel these 3 categories of Synergy Coach team members know you? How well do they know you? How well do they know what's going on in your life? How transparent are you in sharing what's going on in your life? How authentic are you sharing what's going on in your life? And it's always within the boundaries of what's appropriate, but there's definitely a difference between really opening oneself up with a certain measure of vulnerability to others that you're working with. And I think for a long time in business in America, there was this methodology of making distinctions between home and work. And the truth is, we're the same. How you do anything is how you do everything. That's a tenet of the coaching training that I've had for years. You can't separate who you are. And if you try to, that's where conflict starts to arise, and chaos and anxiety and personal disconnect, which is not a healthy place to be. So in looking at 2021, the year that's just almost done, I think we have something like 48 days left in the year, which is not a lot. What do you believe were your biggest strengths that you contributed to Synergy Coach? When you think about what your biggest strength was that you contributed to Synergy Coach, you can look back on those previous questions and evaluate whether or not they were appreciated, whether they were noticed, whether they were received by everybody else on the team.
Doc, you want, and to sidebar, did you say strength finder strength too as well? Or did you just say strengths?
I just said strengths. And if you want to use your strength finder strengths, sure.
I know yesterday you asked us about strength finder strength. So I was, if you guys could toss that one in there too, that'd be great. If you're aware of whichever one you dial up the most.
This is also about people identifying what they believe are their biggest strengths that may not be on the strength finders list. You may think you have a different strength that you bring to the table, like compassion or empathy, that may not be on the list. So you write down what's true for you. And then what is the biggest weakness that you feel has been present for you as you've interacted with Synergy Coach? Where do you feel you either could have used more support, or you need more support, or you know that this is an area you need to work on, whether it's, scheduling or timeliness or communication skills? What is what you see as your biggest weakness when it comes to being able to contribute that strength to Synergy Coach? So all these questions are definitely in that category of building what Patrick Lencioni, who's a business coaching guru of sorts, he's written several books on how teams function together. That trust aspect is the foundation. It's the base under which everything else grows, whether it's communication skills, accountability, and ultimately results. And so I had a short piece that I wanted to share really quickly, which of course I don't have. Up at the moment.
Do you need the host to share the screen?
No, I've got that. I thought I had it on my queue, which means I don't. And what I'll have to do is pop into my file and find it real quick. And it really is just it's a document on teams. I apologize. I was actually out hiking around this morning when I saw the text. We started at 8 o'clock, and I'm like, oh, okay. Let me get back real quick. Let's see. Team building. Here we go. Nope. Well, I can't find it, so we'll just have to chat about it instead. It really just spoke to some classic definitions of teams and what are the things that can get in the way of teams functioning well, communication being one of the big ones, but that communication can't come unless there's trust. And all these questions, hey, Matt, good morning. All these questions are based on the things that create more trust, because that phrase of you do business with people you know, like, And trust is the last one that comes, but it comes after you know someone and the things that you know about them you like. And we often initiate most relationships with just that superficial. Do I like the color that she's wearing? Do I like her hair? Do I like the way he stands? Do I like the way he smells? But then that movement into trust comes from this deeper exploration of who you are. And I've got a document that I'm going to send to everybody. It's a list of a number of non-intrusive personal questions that you can ask one another. And you can take this to any team. And I would suggest that you print it out and use it day to day with clients, with one another, to get that deeper dive into who is this person that I'm interacting with. Because one of the things that I think 2020 pointed out for everybody is that connection is important. As people were yanked away from being able to connect in the ways that they were used to, the rise in depression, the rise in that feeling of isolation, and then all the anxiety that goes with it was sky high. And all of those negative emotions absolutely impact how people were able to perform, how people were able to show up at work, for work, whether it was virtual or in person, mostly virtual for people, and then how they interacted with their families. So it's not a small thing to be able to be comfortable with the people that you're seeing and working with on a day-to-day basis. And for too long, we've spent time just kind of compartmentalizing, like I mentioned earlier, compartmentalizing that time that we spend at the gym, or this time that we spend at work, time that we spend, with a certain group or a network, and then leaving it aside. And that is a source of internal disconnect, which ultimately leads to anxiety and dysfunction. And there's no need to be that way. There's no need to be afraid of being comfortable with who you are with other people. So I had put up, I'm going to put in the chat my number. And what I did yesterday was I had everybody text me their email address. So there's my number. And that was actually one of the last slides in that team diagram that I was going to pop up that I can't find in this moment. But text me your email and I'll send you this document that has all the questions on it. And what I'm asking you to do over the next 24 hours is to ask at least 3 or 4 of those questions of one another. So get to know one another on a different level. And these questions are, they're fairly straightforward, but it's interesting the additional depth that they will bring to you for understanding who your teammate is and how they look at the world. And those are the things that contribute to better conversations when you're having team meetings. It's not just about the agenda. It's not just about the ultimate goal for the business. It's about, are you listening? Can you hear what this person is saying? But then are you listening to what they're saying, which is a different dimension of that act of hearing things. So
Can I ask a question?
You absolutely can.
Do you want those conversations to be one-on-one, or can we put our answers in like the group text that we have?
What you got there,
So that
Larry?
everybody sees them.
Larry's going back to yesterday. Look how clever he is. You're on mute, Larry.
I wanted to see if I can find the diagram you were talking about.
Yeah.
So it's not this one, right?
No, that is the diagram that I was talking about, that hierarchy of the 5 dysfunctions of a team. These are the things that can get in the way. And then to the right here, this is the validation for why it's important to work through this. So that absence of trust, building trust is important because it requires the vulnerability. Without it, there's a fear of conflict. People don't want to talk about who left the door open. They don't want to talk about who didn't put away the weights. They don't want to talk about it because there's that lack of trust. But healthy conflict means that there's candid debate. Yeah, I left the door open because I thought that there was a client coming in right behind me, or whatever might be part of the validation for that point of conflict. But if you have fear of conflict, it's always based in a lack of trust. You don't trust that somebody is going to respect your input, that they're going to be literally compassionate and loving with how they take your input. And that's a piece that we'll talk about in a little bit with the mental fitness program that changes how you view interactions with others. It changes which part of your brain, literally, you go to for your response, whether you're going to that fear side, which is where those aspects of anxiety, guilt, shame, blame, judging live literally in our heads, or the right hemisphere of the prefrontal cortex, which is where those aspects of curiosity, compassion, kindness, and exploration live. And it's where most of the genius for business expansion comes from. But if you're dominated by this fear side, you limit how much you can access in that creative side of your brain. And they've shown this through actual MRIs of gray matter growth or reduction in the brain from people going through what is now being called mental fitness routines of consistent daily practice for 6 to 8 weeks. And that's the length of time that they've shown it is required in order to change the hardwiring of the brain so that the functioning of the individual changes as well. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But this pyramid is has been used in both research teams, large corporate teams, to really identify where is the disconnect for the team in terms of moving forward with getting the results that we're looking for. And without that trust, without that reduction of conflict or transformation of conflict into actual debate, there's a lack of commitment, because people just aren't going to commit to something that makes them feel icky. And with that lack of commitment, there's no longer a way to have accountability and an understanding that people will take your accountability check-in with the right attitude and not take it as criticism, not take it as judgment, take it as simply, hey, this is something you committed to do, and I'm seeing that you're either doing it or not. And these 4 things are what produce the results that you see. So if the results that you see are not what you're interested in having, or they're not on target for what you were expecting, you've got to look at these 4 foundational components and identify what needs to change, what needs to be resourced differently in order to change the results. So thanks for finding that, Larry. I appreciate it.
Are you emailing this chart as well?
I can. I'd be thrilled to. So I
Okay.
can send that.
Well,
send
I
that
want it.
along.
I don't know if everybody else would like it, but
Okay. Is that
if you
Asia
could send
speaking?
it. Yes, sorry.
Okay, great.
Sonia wants it too.
Okay, I'll send it to everybody. If you send me your emails,
Beautiful.
I'll send it. And above this are the definitions of a team and what the benefits are of being part of a functioning team, and what are the benefits of, what are the drawbacks of being part of a dysfunctional team, you know, where it's going to hinder both personally and professionally the results that you see. So did that answer your question, Liz?
My question was about the questions that you're sending to us and you wanted us to answer or
Oh,
talk
yeah.
together about.
I think that it would be way more beneficial to have those conversations one-on-one. Take your time. It's not anything that needs to be done today or tomorrow. It's really kind of a platform for how you move forward with interacting with one another. So take your time with reaching out to each other and just say, hey, I don't know this about you. Could you tell me what your favorite movie is and why? You know, what is it that inspires you about this? Who's your favorite musician? Because those are the things that are coming from an authentic core within somebody, not what they're presenting as part of their professional facade. So, you know, if you don't know what someone's favorite movie is, you don't have a really deep sense of what inspires them and what motivates them, what excites them, what makes them feel good. Small things like that. And that's what the list of questions is. It's small things, but they're significant in how they increase depth of knowing. And it's that know, like, and trust piece that you got to start with the knowing one another. Any other questions from folks? You know, I don't like doing a lecture type of thing like this. I want it to be something that's of service for you and you've got to tell me what's missing or what you need, what would be of service for you. Nobody else? So Larry, had you planned on having a short recap this afternoon, or do you want me to go through this mental fitness information now?
How do you feel? So I'll tell everybody what we did yesterday. What we did yesterday was so Brad was, of course, he's there in Lexington. We stayed on and we talked through some of the questions that Dr. Forsyth gave us. Like the first thing that you just did, the rating of how well do we know the clients, how well do we know each other. We did that with each other before we got off. And then we jumped back on later on, and Dr. Forsyth presented on the mental health program that I'd like us to all, I definitely want. So like earlier in this, I talked about our leadership fund that we are fundraising for so that we can provide executive coaching for our LT first. Also, you saw a picture of Tiffany on there. We're going to be providing the same thing for her because the Human Athlete Project is a project that we collaborated on with her. And so we felt like providing executive coaching for her would help her with a lot of her day-to-day stress from her new role at University of Kentucky with diversity and inclusion. So she's a part of that. That's why you saw a picture of her on there. So I just feel like Dr. Forsyth, it's really up to you. I would.
Well, if everybody has another 15 minutes, let's just go through it quickly now, and then people can be thinking about it and mulling it over.
Cool.
And if there's questions, then we can meet later.
That's fine. I think that's great. I do want to just impress upon each other to make sure, and we can start doing, maybe a good idea is for us to get those responses from each other and start possibly over the course of the year doing quizzes with everybody on, hey, what's Sonia's daughter's name, or whatever the things that we wrote down, so that I really do want us as an organization to know each other. You know, I worked for two organizations that were great. They both won the Super Bowl, right? So the New England Patriots won the Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl often. The Indianapolis Colts, they won the Super Bowl as well. My experience with the Indianapolis Colts was better because I felt as though when I walked through the hallway, the coaches wanted to know who I was. After they met me, they still engaged me. I'm walking down the hallway. Hey, Larry, how you doing? You know, they'd ask me a question about something going on in Lexington or something that they saw. Nonetheless, it was more of a family organization. It was more of a team organization. The New England Patriots was more, you know, they won Super Bowls, they got the job done, you know, but you didn't find it that the head coach would stop and have a conversation with you, or individuals would stop and like really care about the whole organization. I was an intern. And so to like be acknowledged as an intern walking down the hallway for the Indianapolis Colts was just transformative for me. And I love both organizations. I took a lot out of working for both organizations, but I think that what I took from them is something that I really want us to embody, just like really knowing each other as a team, knowing things about each other, et cetera, and figuring out ways that we can get around each other. I don't want it to be like this rote memorization type of thing where we just learn and be able to spew out information, but us actually like getting in the habit of getting with each other. So I'm okay with you doing that. I just want to make sure that I impress upon everybody to get around each other for those, to answer those questions, you know, does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. Well, let me go through that, and you can certainly lead by example by reaching out to everybody and asking them some of those questions.
Sure. And here's the thing. So like, even in saying that, I can tell you a lot of things about Liz. I can tell you a lot of things about Asia. I can tell you a lot of things about Sonia. I can tell you a ton of things about E, right? but that's not the point of this like assignment. It's not this isn't for me to get to know the team better. This is for the team to get to know each other better as well. So I want to make that a point as well, because I mean, I know the great people that we have that work with us and work for our clients, but in the same breath, like, how well does each individual on our team know
Right.
the
Each other.
individual?
Right. Right. Okay, well, let me pop
I'll
up
turn
my
this off.
screen.
Yep.
So this is, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, I really spent probably 9 or 10 months trying to figure out how can I bring access to the coaching process in a way that's effective to individuals who don't have a budget like some of the corporate clients that I have. And, you know, my typical hourly rate is around $3.75 an hour, and it's always packaged in 6-month or 1-year contracts. So that's a little out of the reach, or a lot out of the reach for many people. And it was interesting when Larry put together that presentation for Synergy Coach and Resolve. One of the words that popped out at me, which is really resonates for me, is inclusivity. How do we make access to tools that work so well that major organizations access them? You know, coaching is a multi-billion-dollar industry globally because organizations like Google and Facebook and Microsoft and Coca-Cola and Ford Motors use coaching for their leadership teams in order to keep the ball rolling for the business. And that recognition of the value of that is great, but not everybody has a multi-million-dollar budget to pay for bringing coaching to all of their team members. And that inclusivity has resulted, that exclusivity has resulted in groups that would benefit from having the structure and content that coaching brings to an individual for really diving into their deepest talents in a really powerful way, and then creating results from it. It means that organizations like Black Lives Matter movement don't get access to tools that would clear away a lot of the confusion, clear away a lot of the clutter, and allow people to focus on what's most important and then get the job done. So earlier this year, as I've been looking for what else is out there, most of you know that I wrote a book in 2020, which was trying to make some of the tools of coaching accessible to anybody who wanted to buy a $9.99 Kindle book on Amazon. And I was looking at how do I make that book into an app so that it's even more accessible for the generation of individuals and all of us who are using our phones as mini computers all day long. And I came across an organization based out of Stanford University that had developed an app that was taking all of the concepts of cognitive behavioral therapy, positive psychology, coaching, and merging them into something that was accessible for anybody. And so I went through, they had a pretty rigorous application process for coaches to tap into it, because he had just started making it accessible for coaches to share with their clients. And they teach this in the MBA program at Stanford and at Yale, so that MBAs who are going out into the business world have this capacity to be even better than standard MBA students. And I went through the program. I was very cautious. I've done so much personal development work over my life that I always look at whatever is new as just the shiny object of the day with a lot of reservation, because it's like, does this really work? There's so much stuff out there that doesn't work and doesn't really make a difference. And I was pleasantly surprised and blown away by what I learned and what changed for me. You know, Miss Positivity, you know, my nickname in college was Sunshine because I was just always in a great mood all the time. And that was something that I learned as a child from my father, who was also a very positive person. But the things that I've already grown into in 9 months has been it's been extraordinary enough that I'm bringing this to every client that I've ever worked with, every organization that I've ever worked with, all of the nonprofits that I've worked with that are struggling to try and keep their volunteer forces together, all of the corporations I've worked with that are expanding in crazy ways and not being able to manage it. I'm bringing this to everybody because it really does make a difference. So the term is mental fitness. That's what you're working on, just like physical fitness. And what they've found is that it takes 6 to 8 weeks to truly change how we're wired mentally, because the foundation of our mental structure right now is based off of years of imprint from childhood all the way through adolescence, through young adulthood. And it's hard to change that much indoctrination in 21 days. It just doesn't work. So this is a way of shifting how your brain is literally wired, what synapses are firing, and what biochemistry is being stimulated in your body. It's 7 weeks of practice, daily practice, and it looks at where in your brain the things that hold you back exist, which is in the left hemisphere. Those are the things that can motivate us, because we will definitely run away from things that make us afraid. We will definitely ignore things that cause us stress. We will engage in anger or shame. And those emotions are so powerful that they override the more wisdom-centered side of our brain. And unless we make a conscious effort to change that, we're operating through these negative emotions, which are present for most people. Being able to shift to positive emotions and be able to look at circumstances with curiosity. This is something that you probably hear from Larry, because I have pounded it into him for 5 years. And being curious, what is actually going on? What is actually possible? What else is possible? That's that creativity piece that starts to bring solutions and answers for how to change, how to move through the challenges and chaos that life wants to throw at us, with a way that keeps us still connected to our passion and purpose. And the truth is, operating from that negative side of the brain might bring you success, because you will work hard to get rid of that stress, but it doesn't actually end up in sustained happiness. And so positive intelligence looks at the percentage of time you're spending in both of those areas. And you actually get to recognize it, learn about it, and then choose whether you want to stay in that mindset of what's sabotaging you and keeping you from a state of joy, in a state of productivity and results, or whether you want to move into your mind serving you better. What impressed me about the program when I first looked at it was the amount of research that existed on it actually working. Like I said, there's so many different things out there and tools out there and programs out there that after a while, it just all becomes noise. And when I looked into the research behind this program, I was impressed. They first rolled it out to elite athletes, Olympic athletes that were training at the center in Stanford, to see if it made a difference in their results at the Olympics. And they were blown away by the shift in confidence and performance for athletes. They've rolled it out with over 800,000 people around the world. And the coaching cohort that I went through had coaches from India, France, England, South Africa, Nigeria, the US, Australia, Japan, from all over the world. So people are definitely looking at this as an incredibly valuable tool to bring to their clients. And it's composed of strategies from the professions of positive psychology. I have a certification in positive psychology, neuroscience. I was a science major at Georgetown, cognitive psychology, and performance psychology. So what are those things that actually have lasting power in changing how people approach programs? And what you learn are, not only do we all have what's called a judge, we all have this aspect of looking at either ourselves from a judgmental place. I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not rich enough, and you're not something. And that's that self-judge. Or we look at other people in that way. And that judge in each of us is supported by these 9 saboteurs that tell us stories about how the world works that generally are not true. They're assumptions, they're interpretations that we get either from our own experiences or from our parents or from our peer group, but they have definite qualities. And the assessment that I'm going to link you to take will show you which of these are most prevalent for you. Controller, hyperachiever, restless, and you'll learn about each one of them and start to recognize either yourself or somebody you know really well as having an overactive, hyper-rational quality or an overactive victim mentality. My number one saboteur, I don't have a lot of them, which was really pleased to see, is the avoider. And when I saw that, I had to laugh because, yeah, I will always avoid paying the bills to be able to go outside and hike instead. That's where I was this morning. I was out hiking and walking around and avoiding looking at my phone and realizing that I was committed to being on this call at 8 o'clock my time. So avoider is strong for me because the things that I do to avoid are really pleasant. So what the program does, and this is actually what happens for people, is it develops the mental, what they call the mental fitness muscles. Those muscles that exist in our right hemisphere that help us to shift away from those saboteurs being dominant and into a state of being more present with what they call the 5 sage powers. Those powers of empathy, innovation, activation. There's 5, but you build the saboteur interceptor muscle. You build a sage muscle, which helps you handle challenges with a clear, calm mind. And then the self-command muscle, which helps you to choose and be aware of those negative emotions trying to take over. And those negative emotions are so deeply imprinted that they do pop up. But the key is, do they pop up and stay? Or do they pop up for less than a minute? And are you able to shift out of them quickly? And this program actually trains you to shift out of them very quickly so that you can get into the sage power of navigate through that challenge, figure out what the best solution is quickly. And it's that speed of transformation that starts to make life incredibly fun. And we are pleasure-seeking creatures at our core. And so if you can do that with more ease and effectiveness and still be taking care of what's important from the mundane aspects of, feeding yourself and keeping your house paid for, then that's a brilliant way to live, truly. So the app, you sign up for it, you get a daily practice, which comes in, there's a focus every day. And the truth of it is it builds that right hemisphere muscles, one small muscle at a time. It lays down new neural pathways, which they've shown that gray matter increases in that creative side of the brain, so that by the end of the program, the change is substantial. This is an example. This is a screenshot from my phone for some of the daily focuses of the day. So one day it might be how to improve relationships using the SAGE perspective, how to improve performance using activate, how to improve performance using the navigate power. And so what the daily focus is a little short 2-minute recording that gives you tools and tips for how to do that, how to improve performance with this specific SAGE power. And by the end of the day, you've got a much better understanding of how to do it. This rotates around over the 6 weeks. And by the end of the 6 weeks, you've made this incredible shift that's actually imprinted. It's actually more permanent than simply knowing what your strengths are, knowing what your VIA components are. So a lot of folks that I talk to about this will say, well, I just don't have time to add in something else. And the truth is, the amount of time that the program takes is about 2% of your total waking time in a week. So it's not a lot. It's just consistent and effective in the way that they've rolled out this app. It's really brilliantly put together, I've got to say. And the results that they've seen that are quantifiable, so this is what actually happens, is teams perform better, salespeople sell more. So if you're trying to enroll people in a program, you will find that you're 30 to 40% more effective in getting a yes. Creativity increases. They found that doctors diagnose better, to which I said, hooray. I know how many of the guys I went to med school with are going to appreciate this. And in general, people will live 10 years longer because they've reduced that aspect of anxiety and stress. And that is one of the factors that increases all of the health problems that are killing people: high blood pressure, diabetes, suicide, depression. Living 10 years longer, if you can live it in a healthy, joyful way, is absolutely a desired outcome. So here on the screen, at the bottom here, www.positiveintelligence.com, you can go to that page, and about halfway down the page in the middle is an orange tab that has the saboteur assessment. Just click on that and take the assessment, and it'll send you a free report on what your major saboteurs are that are probably impacting your life in some way, some significant way. And there's a lot of information, free information on the website that's absolutely worth scrolling around and taking a look at. And then the thing to ask yourself is, what would life be like for you if you were able to perform at a higher level with less stress and more energy? What might change for you that you could really go after in your life? So give that some thought, because that is absolutely what this experience and training empowers you to do. And as we were talking yesterday about personal missions, I shared that a long time ago, one of my mission statements was to empower human potential and empower others to really live into their talents and their passions with success. So this is a quote that I used in my book that I really like. It's from Herbert Otto, who's a psychologist and an author. And it just says, that change happens when we are willing to risk ourselves and dare to become involved in experimenting with our own lives. And I love that. As much as I love the mountains that you see behind there, this is what I get to enjoy every day. And I get to enjoy it because years ago I did take some risks and experimented, and I still do today. So that's a little bit about the program itself. And I really hope that you will go to the Positive Intelligence website, check it out. That's what, the cost for it is something that I have worked diligently with myself, and the company to make affordable, and that I've brought to Larry as a proposition for being able to have the team go through it. It's awesome to have a pod, which of course, when you are grouped together, they find out that there's a 500% more chance of a group actually completing the program when you have that accountability from other members who are also learning alongside of you, learning the same language, learning the same skill sets, and evolving in the same way. So it's really brilliant. And like I said, I'm bringing it to as many teams as I can. I'm really working with a couple of community activist groups in Texas and in Louisiana to bring it to some underserved groups so that we can start to change that aspect of exclusivity that exists right now for bringing resources to organizations that will change how effective they are in the world. And the last thing I wanted to share was a quote that I heard from our former, the last intelligent president that we had. Obama was speaking at the UN Climate Change Conference in Glasgow, and he made a comment that was something that one of the German activists, climate change activists, was sharing, that she was concerned with and asking and really pondering at the conference is, how can we turn anxiety into something constructive? And when he put that question out there, I just wanted to leap through the computer and go, I know a way that we can change anxiety into something constructive by just transforming that energy into action. And so I'll see what I can do to reach out to Barack and see if he can get on board with the Positive Intelligence app and sharing it with his network, because it is something that's an easy to use tool. It's super simple, but it's incredibly effective for changing how you approach everything, relationships, work. Yes, Sonia?
You have 6 degrees of separation to Barack Obama.
I think I've got 1.2.
Nice. All right,
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah. So, it's gotten, technology has made all of those degrees of separation a lot closer for everybody. So that's that taking a risk. I mean, what can he say? No. So that's the dog and pony show for today. Any questions? Any thoughts?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment, I guess. Mine's just thank you. I really appreciate your knowledge and your words that you shared. I think it just hit me a little just because I have been on this spiritual and just self path the last 2-3 months. So I've been trying to do a lot of work and being connected with myself. And it's funny that you kept bringing up curiosity, because in my therapy session, she was just like, what are you curious about? Just a whole bunch of stuff. So it was really good to hear. And yeah, I just want to say thank you. So
You're very welcome.
Appreciate
You're
it.
very welcome. You're very welcome.
I just want to say thank you too. The meeting was great for me. I miss talking to you and hearing these things. So very
All right,
informative. I
Elisha,
appreciate it. Yes.
bring it back around again. You can give me a call anytime. You know that.
Yeah. Thank you.
And, for me as a coach, it's never about people needing to talk to me. That's why I'm excited about this app, because it's about empowering you to own your own process. It's empowering you to really be in control of how you engage with all these things in the world that are being thrown at us all the time. And so I'm real excited about this app, because I'm just seeing some incredible transformations happen for people who didn't think they could change. And that's fun for me to see. And then the results of it are, like we mentioned earlier, anything that happens to you happens to everybody around you as well by default. So it's cool to bring the tools that are in that positive vein of movement. Someone whose work I've followed for years is a woman who's an artist, Julia Cameron. She wrote The Artist's Way back in 1992. And she said, positive thinking is a spiritual muscle, which you can develop through gentle daily practice. And that is what this app is. It's gentle daily practice. It's easy to do, but incredibly effective. So go to the website, check it out, email me later, tell me what your thoughts are. And I will get these documents out to everybody. The information on teams with that pyramid chart on it, and then also that list of questions to kind of embed in your own consciousness to ask to folks as you're moving throughout your day. All right, Larry, if you're done with fixing breakfast or still in the middle of it, I think we're complete here.
I thought I was muted. Yeah, I'm about done cooking breakfast. But everything I heard sounds great. Really appreciate it, Dr. Forsyth. Appreciate you. And appreciate each of you for showing up today. Hopefully we'll finish these assignments and have some great conversation with each other here soon.
Awesome. All right, have a fabulous weekend, everybody. Enjoy your activities, whatever they might be, and stay positive out there.
thank you.
I take
All
care.
right, take care.